Hello everyone, this video is for week 10, Introduction to Digital Library. At first I want to introduce two related courses offered by SLS. The first one is LS 562 Digital Libraries. This one will be taught by Dr. Macron. And the second one is LS 564 Programming for Digital Libraries. I will teach this course by using Python. If you are interested in digital libraries, my recommendation is to at least take the first course. And if you want to take the second one, LS564, it is ideal to take this one in the following semester after you have finished LS562. Okay, what is digital libraries? Well, we all familiar with libraries. A library is a collection or collections of creative and informational sources such as books and other materials selected, organized, and maintained for use in study, research, or leisure. Library serves are provided that facilitate access and use of materials to meet certain user needs. And nowadays, the increase in electronic materials has made it possible to access library resources from anywhere, anytime. There are many definitions of digital libraries. I have attended six here. Some are simple, others are more detailed. The term digital libraries could mean different things to different peoples. For example, some scholars consider that digital libraries are just digital representations of physical libraries. Others consider digital libraries are online databases. Some others may consider digital libraries are collections of digital objects. Here you can see, yes, this first one falls into the first category, right? Digital libraries are the logical extensions, blah blah blah, of physical libraries, and the second one falls into the third category, collections of digital objects. So does this definition 5, collections of digital works. Although definitions could vary, it is useful when the library defines the mission of its digital libraries. For instance, here, this is from the University of Chicago Library. It provides a digital library program page that explains the activities of its digital libraries. Here you can see this digital library falls into the third category because its collections mainly focused on digital images, photographs, manuscript, or even I think books and other materials. Here are some examples of digital libraries. You can open those links one by one to see which categories they fall into. For example, this one, I think most people will consider it as an online database, while this second one and the last one, you may consider them as collections of digital objects. Okay, so here are some questions for you. What else you can think of important aspect in defining a digital libraries? From its user, from its usage, from its application, or something else. And what is not a digital library? What is your definition of a digital library? You may give one sentence definition of each. This is a assignment for last semester's class. They need to post a 3 sentence on discussion board. But this is not a requirement for this semester. But still, you may consider what's your answer for each question here. Building a digital library could be expensive and resource intensive, so it is important to consider some basic principles underlying the design, implementations, and maintenance of any digital library. I have listed some basic principles for building digital libraries here. You may also refer to this link. These principles apply not only to convention projects in which analog objects are converted to digital, but also to digital libraries in which the objects have always been in digital forms, such as digital videos and digital audios, and to mixed digital libraries in which the objects may be of both types. I think most of the principles here are pretty easy to understand. Uh, so I want to focus on this one, 6. Beware of data rights, because if you don't follow good practice of digital rights, you may violate copyright laws. Here, a copyright exists in any original work of authorship fixed in a tangible media. That media, that media can be almost anything. For a word to be original, it must meet 2 qualifications. First, it cannot be copied from another work, and also it must have at least a small amount of creativities. Um, Copyright lasts for the life of the author and 70 years thereafter, according to U.S. Copyright Office. Um, Copyright are not absolute. They are subject to a number of limiting principles and exceptions. For example, the exceptions for certain archive and other copying by libraries and archives are in Section 108 of the Copyright Law or Copyright Act. Libraries and archives are permitted to make up to 3 copies of an unpublished copyrighted work for purpose of preservation and security, or for deposit for research use in another library or archives. The work must be currently in the collection of the libraries or archives, and any copy made in digital format may not be made available to the public in that format outside of the library. Uh, Fair use. So this is the copyright exceptions with which people are often most familiar. I'm not sure if you have seen this term fair use before. Whether a use is fair depends on the fact of a particular case. Usually, 4 factors must be evaluated when such a decision, if a use is fair or not, are made. The first factor is the purpose and characteristics of the use. Among the considerations is whether the use is for commercial or for non-profit educational purpose. Works that transform the original by adding new creative authorship are more likely to be considered fair use than those that do not. However, even a reproduction can be considered a fair use in some cases. The second factor is um, the nature of the copyrighted work. The scope of fair use is generally broader for factor-based works than it is for fanciful works, and broader for published works than for unpublished ones. The third fair use factors is the amount of works you want to use. Generally, the more this is taken, the less likely it is to be fair use. But there are situations in which making complete copies is also considered fair. The last one, the fourth factor, is the uh, effect on the potential market or the value of the copyrighted work. A use that supplants the market for the original is unlikely to qualify as fair. Certain uses are favored in some cases. They include commons, news reporting, teaching, including multiple copies for classroom use, scholarship, and research. A nonprofit digital archive for scholarly or research use, for example, usually would be favored by the law. Uh, but favored use are not automatically granted, and these four factors must be evaluated in each case, basically. So this slide introduced some good practice in digitizing in copyright materials. So if it's not a threat to copyright, if permission granted by copyright owners, if permissions denied by copyright owners. So those are some signals need for copyright reform. Okay, Creative Commons CC. I'm not sure if you have seen the Creative Commons license before. Basically, a Creative Commons license is one of several public copyright licenses that enable the free distributions often of a copyrighted work. So you can refer to this link. There are several licenses based on Creative Commons. The first one I think should be the most popular one. Okay, this one. This license lets others distribute, remix, and build upon your work, even commercially, as long as they credit you for the original creations. This is the um, most popular lesson offered by Creative Commons, and there are also some other Creative Commons lessons here. For example, this one lets others reuse the work for any purpose, including commercially. However, it cannot be shared with others in adopted format, and credit must be provided to you. Slide 18 to slide 29 list questions to ask yourself before starting building a digital library. For example, what is your purpose? What is your audience? What are the physical characteristics of the collection? Who owns it? What is your time frame? How is the project being funded? Who will be responsible at a different stage of the project? How will you perform the actual digitalizations? What metadata schema are you planning to use? How are you going to provide access to the collection? Is it free? How do you plan to maintain the collection in the future? So you may also consider how to build your digital library from three perspectives: users, materials, and technology. I'm not going to read them line by line, so those questions are just for you as a reference. This is how a digital library project proposal should look like. A digital library project proposal should include, of course, at first, name of the digital library, group members and their initial responsibilities, mission and goals of the digital library, target user groups, descriptions of digital content, digital process, collection development policy, equipment, software, and suppliers needed, anticipated budget, long-term plan, how you will do long-term preservation, timeline, similar topic group libraries where we need this specific libraries if we already have some data libraries in similar group in similar topic. Here are some concepts related to digital library missions and digital library goals. So here is a mission and goals from that International Children's Digital Library. So the mission of this library is to support the world's children in becoming effective members of the global community. This is a very big vision who exhibit tolerance and respect for diverse cultures, languages, and ideas by making the best in children's literature available online, free of charge. Those are the goals of this digital library. First, to create a collection of more than 10,000 books in at least 100 language that is free, available to children, teachers, librarians, parents, and scholars throughout the world via the internet. And the second goal, to develop a greater understanding of the relationship between children's access to a digital collection of multicultural materials and children's attitude towards books, libraries, reading, technology, and other countries and cultures, and to collaborate with children as design partners in the development of computer interface technologies to provide a platform for operational excellency that ensures the library's growth. You can see goals. Digital library goals provide more details based on the mission. Another important thing in your digital library proposal, which could define if your project will be alive or dead, is the budget section. You should write statement about how you plan to spend the money. What are some costs for selecting and preparing material for digitalizations? What are some costs for imaging requirements, digitalization costs, metadata requirements? Do you need to buy certain applications? Do you need to hire metadata creators, even part-time? And what's the cost for post-digitalization process and other local costs? From here, I will show you some most popular digital library application softwares. So what do you need to consider to select an application software for your digital library? First thing you need to consider is the digital object in your digital library. So which format they are in, document, image, audio, video, or some other formats. Can that specific application software support certain formats? And also, do you need some specific technology and administration features? Can that specific application software support your need? So those are some items you need to consider regarding digital objects. So for certain application software, does it support the digital object type format you have? So I have listed some examples here. So does it support document, image, video, audio, learning objects, or other formats? It depends on your collection, the nature of your collection, and what are some metadata formats it supports, like DC, qualified DC, uh, mats, marks, and other formats such as modes, EAD, and so on. And does it support subject classes like LC subject heading, Library of Congress subject headings, DDC or UDC? And can it offer format conventions if you need it, like can it converting PDF to text? Does it support XML and so on? Here are some technology features you may need for your digital library, and you need to check if a certain application software can support certain features. For example, if it offers advanced searching, if it supports browsing options by author, subject, years, titles, and so on. If it has multiple language support, if users need to register to use your digital libraries, and if the verb syndication is provided. Here, verb syndication is a type of syndication in which verb site material is made available to multiple other sites. And does it offer statistic reporting? Um, does it offer like OAI harvesting functions and so on? And those are some other administration features you may consider in selecting your digital library application software, such as the cost, the installation, maintenance, hosting, updates cost. Uh, can it be used on multiple OS? And what database you need to use with that certain application software for digital library, and does it support a specific script language you need, such as Java, PHP, or JavaScript? I'm not sure which application software Dr. Macron will use to teach us 562. I assume his selection should be among the following three: Content DM, Greenstone, and Omeka. The first one, Content DM, this is a digital collection management system. This is its interface, consisting of a server on which content is stored, a web-based collection discovery interface, and tools to upload and manage the content. It also offers a hosting service whereby users store materials on OCLC servers. Greenstone. The Greenstone Digital Library software is an open source system for the construction and presentations of information collections from the New Zealand Digital Library Project. I think this one is for free. So this is a metadata it uses. This is the C Dublin core. Okay, Omeka is a tool made by George Mason University. This is also a free open source verb publishing platform that is used by different institutions for different purpose. You can also use Amiga to write your blogs, I think. But there are many digital libraries also use this software. You have already seen the metadata section in Greenstone here. It uses Dublin Core. So here I will briefly introduce some basic concepts in metadata and also in Dublin Core DC. If you are interested in metadata, I strongly recommend you to take LS 566 metadata. It is also taught by Dr. McCall. You may have seen many different definitions of metadata. I don't know which one is more official. Probably there's no official definition of metadata, so I listed one here. Metadata is a set of structured fields and the values that populate those fields. It can be used for different purposes such as discovery, administrations, and preservation of data objects. So how do the data work for digital collections? It can be used to facilitate discovery of relevant information, help organize electronic resources, facilitate interoperabilities, provide digital identifications, and support archiving and preservation. There are three main types of metadata: descriptive, structured, and administrative metadata. Um, Most metadata schemas are for the first one, the descriptive metadata that describe the work for purpose of discovery and identification, such as title, creators, and subject. This slide lists some descriptive metadata standards. You don't need to be familiar with most of them, except the last one, Dublin Core, which is the code descriptive metadata most digital libraries are using today. You may wonder, haven't we done metadata already? So we need to develop the Dublin Core. The answer is yes, we have the MARC standard for a long time provided by Library of Congress. The MARC family of standard is still the single most successful resource description standard in the world. But the MARC standard has some disadvantage. First, it is very expensive because the system is complex and can only be used by professional catalogers, and also it has bias towards bibliographic artifacts, and the vocabulary it has is how to say is kind of Anglo-centric. That's some of the reasons why Dublin Core was developed in 1994. What is Dublin Core? It is a shorthand term for the Dublin Core metadata element set. The simple Dublin Core has 15 core elements, as shown here. All of them are optional and repeatable. Some for describing the content, such as title, work descriptions, type, subject, source, relations, and coverage. Some related to the intellectual properties, such as creators, publishers, rights, and contributors. Others are applied in specific instance. For example, many people publish their presentations in both PPT and PDF file, or have different language versions. The content properties on the left here of a presentation are the same, and the intellectual properties might mostly be the same, like the creators and the rights, but the installations might be different format in PPT and PDF, different URLs, different languages, and available since different dates. If you try to think in these three groups of elements, it is easier to understand those 15 core elements. This figure shows the DCMI Dublin Core Metadata Initiative metadata terms. So this set includes that 15 terms as well as the other qualified terms. So here each term has a unique URL in the namespace. So this is a link for the 15 elements in Simple DC. This is a link for all elements, including refinements, encoding, and types. This is a complete set of DCMI type vocabulary. So this is just an introduction. You don't need to understand every detail here. Again, if you're interested in metadata, LS 566 is really a good course you should consider to take. Okay, so here are some terminologies related to slide 49. So one is the element refinement, another is the encoding schema. The DCMI recognized two broader classes of qualifiers. Element refinement makes the meaning of an element narrower or more specific. Elements you can consider them as the same as properties, and then element refinements are the same as subproperties. An element refinement is a special case of an element that shares the meaning of its parent but has narrower semantics. For example, Paul is an illustrator of a book, therefore he is also a contributor to the book. Here, illustrator is an element refinement of contributor. So a refined element shares the meaning of the unqualified element, but with a more restricted scope. A user that does not understand the specific element refinement term should be able to ignore the qualifiers that treat a metadata value as if it were an unqualified border element. So for example, if a user does not understand what does an illustrate mean, the name Paul should still be understandable as a contributor for this book. Encoding scheme identifies schemes that help the interpretation of an element value. These schemes include control vocabularies and formal notations. A value expressed using an encoding scheme will thus be a term selected from a controlled vocabulary, such as from the Library of Congress subject heading, or a string formatted in a standard way. For example, this term means May 2nd, should be May 2nd here, not February 5th. If an encoding scheme is not understood by a client or agent, the value may still be useful to a human reader. So this table lists elements that require using encoding scheme. such as coverage, type, subject, date format, and language. So, for example, for the date, the value you used should be in the list of this document. So if I open this link, and date, this is the date and time format. Value of a date in DC should follow like this. So I have some examples here. Actually, only the first 4 examples meet the requirement of this document. Those are the value you can use for the date element in DC. You can use the following generators template to create a simple DC record for one resource. Can be book, journal articles, map, image, or a certain web page. And you can also add more elements or called qualifiers from qualified DC. So you can open this link and go to advanced generators here. Okay, the last part of this set of slides is about digital library evaluations. The digital library evaluation is largely still usability evaluations and should start from analyzing user needs and user characteristics such as the demographic information, users' knowledge and experience, especially their computer IT experience or knowledge, and the level of experience with the task you give to them to evaluate the digital library interface and other functions, and also if there is any psychological characteristics of your user you should pay attention to. So you should be pretty familiar with Nielsen's 5 usability attributes and those 10 usability heuristics, right? So those 5 usability attributes include easy to use, efficiency, easy to remember, arrows, and overall satisfactions. Okay, those are the 10 usability heuristics you have learned from the usability analysis part. I have listed the rationale and example questions for each rule, each heuristics here. I'm not going to read them one by one. So just for you as a reference, especially if you prefer to do the digital library literature review and you want to do like usability analysis of digital library user interface. So this set of slides could be very helpful. Okay, from rule 1 to rule 10. Okay, so again, if you are interested in doing digital library literature review, those are some topics you can consider. But of course, definitely you can select other topics you are interested in, like the role of collection development in a digital age, challenging in designing and implementing useful digital music library, and the evolution of identifier for digital objects like from MARC, from schema developed by Library of Congress to DC or to more specific metadata schemas. Yeah, usability assessment, evaluation of digital library, impact of copyright law on DL, the involving roles of digital librarians, and yes, the issues of interoperabilities in digital libraries, best metadata practice for easy access to digital image or like other digital objects, success of long-term preservation in digital age, and so on. Okay, that's pretty much all for the introduction to digital library. Again, although there are many slides here, most of them are just for introduction. Yeah, at the end, I recommend you to consider to take our LS 562 and LS 566 digital libraries and metadata offered by Dr. McCarl. And if you want to be a like metadata librarians or like assistant librarians in the future, then you can consider to take LS 564 programming for digital libraries taught by myself. So because then you can add more lines in your CV, say like I'm not only be able to create digital library by certain softwares. I can also do my own programming for digital libraries. But that's up to you. Okay, thank you.